Howdy, folks. I understand you have some questions on V-carving. Um, we're going to go through just a basic V-carve and some of the things that you would ask about. But first, I think I'll explain a little better how V-carving actually works. Okay? So here we have our program, but for right now, we're not going to use it for what we normally would. We're going to use it as kind of like a whiteboard in school. So come over here. Okay, so let's say this is the board that we want to work on. Doesn't matter what size it is. This is just our work piece, okay? And we want to put some text on it. So we're going to start out with some just kind of small text. All right, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. All right, so now let's take a look at our board from a side view. Okay, so we'll turn that on. So here's a side view of our board. This is our board. This is the thickness of our board right here. These two lines here represent this line and this line as they run through the board. This is our V bit. Okay? What we're going to do is when we do a V carve, our bit is going to come down, and it's only going to come down till this line and this line are reached by both sides of the bit. Okay? So that gives us, there's our cut. So it comes down till this line and this line meet, so you get that nice V. Okay? So now, let's turn that off. Let's turn off the small text. Let's go to a little more, regular size text. So same thing, we've got our text. Here's our side view. These two lines here represent this line and this line, which I could go on and do this one and this one, but it would just make it a little complicated looking. So we're just going to go with this one and this one. This time, take our bit, and when we run our program, it's going to come down, and again, it's going to go till it hits this line and this line. Okay? So now, we've got a deeper cut. So bigger text, the deeper the cut. All right, let's turn that off. And let's go to some larger text. Definitely larger text. Now, again, this is a side of our board here. Zoom in. Now this time, our V-bit's going to come down. And it's only going to go till this side hits, because this side can't reach. Okay? So that is going to give us that cut. Then it's going to come back up, or it'll actually just kind of move over, but we're going to do it like this. And it's going to come down to here, which is going to give us, this cut. So now we have that. Then it's going to come down and it's going to go to there, which is going to give us our final depth of cut, which you can see is much deeper. Okay. So now, zoom back out here. And let's go to huge text. That is a much wider, again, this line are represented here and here. Zoom in. So we run our program. It's going to come down. Go up. Come over. It's going to come down. Going to go up. And it's going to take out the middle nut. And they may not do it in this exact order, but this is basically what is happening. Now it's going to come down here. And we have a problem. We have just cut through the bottom of our board and into our spoil board if we have one. And if we don't have a spoil board down, now we cut into our table, which would not be good. But the program's smart enough to know that, so it'll warn you that you're going to cut through. And you can say, oh no, I don't want it to do that. So in this case, you would do what they call setting a flat depth. So when we set a flat depth, then it's going to come over. We run our program. It's going to come down. There's a cut one. And it'll go up. It'll come down. Makes cut two. Then it's just going to cut across. Make cut three. And now you have a flat bottom vcarve. But it doesn't run through our table. Now this we could set to be deeper if we wanted. That's where we have control of our depth. So that's how vcarving works. Okay? That's the function of it. Alright, so I'm going to come back here. Let me turn all this stuff off. And I'll use this one. I'm just going to get rid of this. Change that to vcarve. And that's our active layer. So now we're going to come over here to our drawing. Okay. So now we're going to say this workspace is normally, this is our work board. I'll kind of change it up and make it look a little more like what you may want, what a sign would look like. So to change that, I can go into here and go edit my job size and position. Or I can just come here and it takes me back to that first thing that I see when I start a new project. So we're a 20 by 20. Let's make it a 20 by 6. And we'll go with 0.75, so 3/4 thickness. And we're good. Actually, let me show you that again so we can see that. Okay, so our 0 position is set at the top of our workpiece. Our datum position is set in the middle. And that's just temporary. We can change that later, like I had said. But it's good to design with it in the middle. Scale design with the job, yeah, we don't worry about that. And our modeling resolution is just for our display. And we're going to say okay. Okay, so here's our 20-inch by... what do we say it was? 6, yeah, 20 by 6. All right, so if I want to do just a basic vcarve, come in, I'm going to grab my text, and we'll go V, do a dash C-A-R-V-E. So vcarve. I'm going to apply that, and right away we can tell, whoa, that's way too big. So for my size of my lettering, I can set it here. So I can say, let's drop this down to 4. And I can hit enter or push the apply button, and that's still too big. So I pushed apply that time. So let's come down to 3, enter. That's a little better. Okay, so I have my lettering there. I'm going to close out of here. And I want to center my lettering on my workpiece. So make sure you have this part selected. Whenever you select it, it's going to turn this magenta color. Otherwise, I have it set to orange right now. Usually by default it's black, but I have my layer set to orange, which you can do up here. If you see our vcarve layer, our color for everything on that layer is set to orange. Okay. So I'm going to click on this so it's selected. And this right here is going to center it on my workpiece. And if you hover over there, you'll see a little tooltip comes up. It says center selected objects horizontally and vertically in material. That's what we want. So we have our piece here. Here's our letters we want carved in. So again, we're ready to go make our toolpath, so we select our letters. We're going to close out this door. We're going to walk out that door. It walks us into this door here, into our operations side, our toolpath side. So we know what our material is. We're good on our material. If we did want to change it, we could change it here. Let's say I wanted to now use this lower left corner as where it's starting from. I could select it here. I can change my thickness, because sometimes you may not have your wood yet, or you may not have it planed down yet, and you say I'm going to shoot for 0.75, but let's say you only get it to 0.7, or you have a knot or something that you find where you have to go take off a little more than you're expecting. You can change it here, but do it before you run your toolpaths. It's not a deal breaker if you don't. You can always change it and then recalculate your toolpaths, but it's easier to do it in the first place. So now we've taken calipers to our board. We know our thickness. Our datum position, for right now, we're just going to leave it in the center. Our material surface, again, we're going to use as the top because we're just doing a carve. We don't have to worry about our model position because it's not a 3D. Our rapid Z gaps is after it cuts in this letter and it lifts out of the wood and it moves over to this letter, that's how high above the wood it's going to go. This is usually set at 0.2 or 0.25, and that's just fine. The only time you may want to change that is if you have clamps in the way, which for the most part, you shouldn't ever have clamps in the way. Home start position, you should never have to worry about that. And then 0.21 is just saying that's, I think a lot of them, I think default's like 0.5, but this you shouldn't have to worry about either. That's just how high it's going to sit above the material before it starts its job. So, okay, we're good on that. We want to do a vcarve. So we're going to vcarve. We have our lettering selected here. Our start depth, we're going to start at the material surface, right at our top. So that's going to be 0. Okay. And we're going to use, let's say, we're going to use a 90-degree half-inch V-bit. And we'll say OK. Now, if you wanted to change your feeds and speeds, you could come in here. Pass depth for this one I have set at 1/4 inch. Step over is very small because it's got that little short point, so it can only move over a very little bit. I've got spindle speed set at 16,000, which really doesn't matter to us because our spindle's not controlled through our software. Our feed rate, I'm going to slow down my feed rate to about 60. And plunge rate at 30 is okay. Now changing it in here in this edit settings only changes it for this job. It does not change the settings in my database. Now as of right now, I don't need to use a flat area clearance tool. If I was going to go through my board, this should be, right now you see it's grayed out. This should be usable if I was able to go through. So it's a very smart program. And then this would go with this. It's how you want to do your clear. Ramps we don't need to do on plunge moves because we're using a V-bit, which is a sharp bit. That's more for flat-ended bits like end mills. Using our vector start points, you probably never use that, so don't worry about that. Vector selection order is more of a production thing. You'll probably never use that. If you ever get into a job where you're doing like 100 little medallions or something, then you would use that, and I would explain to you how to use that. All you have to do is give me a call. Our safe Z is 0.2 inches, so that's fine, and we're not projecting onto a 3D model, so we don't have to worry about that. And we're going to name this text vcarve, okay? And we're going to calculate that out. And it's going to send us to our simulator. So now we're in the simulator, and this is showing us the blue lines are the lines where our bit is going to cut into the wood. The red lines are where it's above the wood, moving from point A to point B to start a new cut. So you'll notice there's red lines between all the letters. Okay. So our toolpath is selected here, and we're going to preview it here. I don't have the animate on, so it's just going to go directly to it. But you know what? Let's turn animate on. And we'll leave our speed. We'll set our speed down just a touch. Okay, so our animate preview is on. It's going to show us our little tool. You can turn that off and just see the cut if you want, but we'll leave the little tool. It'll simulate our bit. And this is where you adjust the speed to your animation. And we're just going to preview our selected tool path, clicking here. And you see it shows us our tool. That's supposed to be your V-bit, and that's showing the cut. And the speed seems a little slow, so we'll speed it up a little bit. A little more. Now you notice how you can really see it in there where it's going down and making double cuts to get that depth that it needs to make those two sides of that line touch. It's going to come back. You can see where it left that little bit right there. It's going to take all that out. And the reason that it jumps around like it does is just the algorithm they have used. I don't understand their algorithm, but it works really well. And notice it's taken out that little piece. You see you got some left over here. It's going to clean all that out. It'll get that little centerpiece for us.